He jumped at the chance to be here, and we're just so grateful that you're always so supportive of Chicago Public Schools and specifically of my leadership. So I truly appreciate that. I want to thank all of the participants that have joined us today for the Ask the Expert series. This is something that we started during the pandemic because there was just a lot of new information that was coming out, and our parents said they needed more information and wanted more access to the experts. So today, I'm thrilled because we are joined by Ray Pilarski. I hope I pronounced that correctly, with Code for America, and again, our own Senator Dick Durbin. From supporting initiatives that have reduced violence as well as health disparities here in the city, to advancing legislation that has lifted up our schools, especially during this very challenging year. I'm excited to see that Senator Durbin is here once again sharing his passion for public education in the youth in Chicago. The subject for today's Ask the Expert is around the child tax credit. And I look forward to hearing from Senator Durbin to speak on this and also to share more insight on the unprecedented American Rescue Plan that is providing support to our schools and lifting people out of poverty. It was critically important that we had this meeting today because we don't want to leave a cent on the table, and we know so many people need this support as we try to recover from this pandemic and what has been a challenging year for all. And so I'm glad that we're going to have the input from Ray, who is a well-respected expert on the tax credit, and will also be here to share some insight today and beyond to make sure our parents and families fully access this resource. So with that, I want to say welcome to the both of you, and I will now turn it over to Senator Durbin for some remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. First, let me give these remarks. Thank you personally for what you have done for so many families and so many kids in the Chicago public school system. It has been a joy and an honor to work with you. You are a true professional, and so proud of Chicago Public Schools, where you started, if I'm not mistaken, in a Head Start class and made it all the way to the top, running the whole show. You've been a terrific public servant, and you're going to continue to be whatever you do. And I'm in your corner, girl. You just call me if I can help you. All right? So listen.
I will.
All right, I hope you will. So let me just tell the folks who are listening, it's about time you got some good news. And if you're a mother or a father with a child, here's some good news. We just increased, under President Joseph Biden, the child tax credit. What is the child tax credit? That is money coming back to you. Now, what do you have to do to qualify for a child tax credit? Well, you've got to have a child, and that's pretty obvious. And as many children as you have, that'll determine how much of a credit you receive. Let's assume that you have 3 children under the age of 6. You got a young family, 3 kids under the age of 6. You are entitled to receive for each of those children $3,600 a year as a tax credit, times 3 is $10,800. So I've got to wait all year to get this big fat check? No. We start July 1st paying on a monthly basis. So you'll be receiving for 3 children $900 a month. Wait a minute, Senator, you got to be pulling my leg. I'm just going to get $900 for 3 kids. What do I have to do to get it? Pretty simple. File a tax return. File a tax return. If you did last year, you're in good shape, but better advice, do it this year. In other words, filing for 2020, you have until May 15th to file, and you go ahead and file your tax returns, and then you can be receiving these child tax credit checks as early as July 1st, and they come to you on a monthly basis. So wait a minute, what if I don't owe any taxes? Doesn't make any difference. This is called a refundable tax credit. You get it whether you owe any taxes or don't owe any taxes for the last year that you worked. You receive the money. It's based on your income. If you individually make less than $75,000 a year, make less, you qualify for this tax credit. If you're in a family, if you make less than $150,000, you and your spouse, you qualify for this tax credit. Well, you just said kids under the age of 6, Senator. My kids happen to be 8 or 9 years old, maybe 10 or 12 years old, maybe 13 or 14 years old. I guess I lose out. No, but you receive $250 a month instead of $300 a month. That's the difference. So I got 3 teenagers, Senator. What do I get? $750 a month. A check coming in, $750 a month. Can you figure out where to spend that? I'll bet you can. Whether it's childcare or food or clothing or rent, it's going to be important to you. Why do we do this? Because we said if people across this country are dealing with poverty, they're dealing with lack of money. You can't solve a problem by throwing money at it unless the problem is not enough money. And that's what many families struggle with. They just don't make enough money. Helping hand coming from Washington. Child tax credit. What do I have to do to receive it? File your income tax return, claim your dependents on the return, which everybody does. I got 3 kids, I got 2 kids, I got 4 kids. Put it on the return, put their ages on the return, and just wait patiently. Starting July 1st, the checks are coming back to you. Child tax credit, $300 a month for kids under the age of 6, $250 a month for kids over the age of 6 up to 17 or 18. So that's all there is to it. And like I said, you don't have to owe any taxes in order to receive this. It's coming your way just by virtue of the fact that your income is not over 75,000 as an individual or 150 as a family. So anyway, our office can answer questions, and every congressional office can answer any questions, but get out and file your tax returns. If you got children and you need a helping hand, and most people do, then this is a way to get it. And finally, something's coming out of Washington that just might help the average family. And I think that's a good idea.
Thank you, Senator, for those remarks. Thank you, Dr. Jackson, as well, for your remarks and for being here and for helping our families know this really important information and how we can get them this money. So I think we're going to go to Ray, who has a little bit more information and how do we file, how do we do all this stuff for our families who are wondering, where do I go? So Ray, take it away.
Thanks so much. And thank you to Senator Durbin. Thank you to Chicago Public Schools. This is such an important event and an important subject. And I'm really glad that this is being recorded because I would like to play Senator Durbin's remarks on a loop for folks because it's just that simple. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and go through a short presentation. All right, give me one moment. Okay. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about getyourrefund.org. My name is Ray Pilarski. I'm the Senior Program Manager on the Get Your Refund team at Code for America. And I'm actually from Illinois. So anytime I get the opportunity to focus from my home state about taxes and tax credits, that is a good day in my book. So thank you so much for having me. I want to get started by talking a little bit about Code for America and getyourrefund.org so that you understand more about what we do, we are, and why we do this. Code for America is a nonprofit organization that partners with government to strengthen the delivery of public services through human-centered design and technology. So essentially, we believe that it's possible for government to work better for people, and we seek to do that through the implementation of technology. We're currently working on SNAP in California, benefits integrations across multiple states, criminal record clearance, and tax benefits. And the reason that we're working on the area of tax benefits is very simple. And as Senator Durbin has already laid out, we know that families need flexible cash to get ahead. This is more true now during the time of COVID than ever before. And tax benefits can be a significant source of that flexible cash, whether it be the earned income tax credit or the credit that we're talking about today, which is the child tax credit. The recently passed American Rescue Plan has resulted in significant changes to this credit. So it behaves a little differently than it did in the past. And that will benefit families so long as people know how to claim it and have access to free tax preparation in order to do that. So I'll share a little more information on the child tax credit and a few more details so that you know whether you and your children qualify. So let's cover the child tax credit again. In a nutshell, it's a credit that's available to filers with qualifying children. And this is tax terminology, and we'll cover what a qualifying child actually is as far as the IRS is concerned. The important thing to note, as Senator Durbin said, is that the American Rescue Plan made it so that you don't need to owe tax, you don't need to have taxable income, and you don't need to make enough so that you're required to file a tax return in order to get this credit. So it will be available to folks who typically don't file a return. It's also increased the amount of credit that's available per child. So again, children who are 6 or younger qualify for $3,600, and children who are 7 to 17 qualify for $3,000. And since this is available in advance, you would get that in monthly payments if you choose. So let's talk a little bit about whether or not you can claim the child tax credit. So you may qualify if, again, you have a qualifying child and if you have a social security number or Itin. So this is available for filers who have an Itin. It is a little different for the qualifying child. So I want to be sure that you know that if you, as the filer, have an Itin, you are able to claim this credit. And as Senator Durbin mentioned, the income limits are quite generous. So if you are filing single, you can make up to $75,000 before that credit starts to phase out or be reduced. If you are head of household, which means that you are filing on your own but have dependent children, you can have up to $112,500. And if you are married filing jointly, it's $150,000. So quite a few folks will be eligible for the full amount of this credit. So let's talk about children who qualify, and that phrase qualifying child, because it can be a little confusing. You should know that a qualifying child doesn't technically be your child. So I'm going to run through the list that you see here to explain a little more about that. So a qualifying child can be your son, daughter, grandchild, stepchild, or adopted child, as well as a sibling, including step siblings and half siblings, or their descendants. So now we're talking about nieces and nephews. It can also be a foster child placed with you by a government agency. As long as that applies, and the child is 17 years of age or younger, and they are a US citizen, US national, or a US resident alien, which is someone who is not a citizen but has spent significant time in the US, they may qualify. As I mentioned before, you as the filer can file with an Itin. However, the child does need to have a social security number. And this is a fairly recent change. So if you've been filing taxes for a while and you used to claim a child tax credit for a child with an Itin, that was permissible in the past, but the most recent tax reform, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, did change that so that children claimed for the child tax credit must have a social security number. And they must have lived with you for more than half the year, unless there's paperwork involved. And that paperwork may be a court order, a divorce decree, or a release of claim by the custodial parent. So how do I claim the child tax credit? File a tax return. It's as simple as that. That's all you have to do. In addition to the child tax credit, you may find that you are eligible for other tax benefits, like the earned income tax credit or education benefits, things like that. If you've already filed a return and your return is accurate, you're done. There's no additional action, no additional steps that you need to take in order to start receiving the child tax credit payments. But a common question is, what if I do need to make changes to my return? So in some cases, those changes may necessitate an amendment of the return. However, there are a few things that you can change within the soon to be created IRS Child Tax Credit Portal. So this is not yet available, but is actually written into the American Rescue Plan, so it will be available very soon. You would be able to adjust your income, your filing status, and the number of dependents if needed after you file your original return. Let's talk a little bit more about the Child Tax Credit Portal and who should use that. So this is a page that will be available on the IRS website where filers can update that information for the purpose of claiming the child tax credit. As I mentioned before, it should only be used by folks who have already filed an original return. And I want to be clear that it's not used in the same way that the economic impact payment or stimulus non-filer portal was used. So non-filers do still need to file a tax return in order to get the child tax credit. This portal can, however, be used to opt out of receiving those advance payments so that instead you can receive a full amount at tax time when you file your 2021 taxes next year. So we can talk about a few barriers that come up to filing or to claiming this credit. The first is not filing a tax return. There are a lot of folks who have never had to file before, who may not realize that they could really benefit from this particular change to the tax code. So we want to encourage everyone, even if you're not sure if you would benefit, file a tax return and you can find out that way. Next barrier is having children who do not have a social security number. As I mentioned, that's a recent change. And that is a barrier that unfortunately we can't move around. And then finally, determining which parent can claim the child if parents are not married filing jointly can be a very common barrier for folks. So if there are parents each file their own return and may claim the child, what it comes down to is who can legally claim that child based on the tax law. So it's not about who does add them to the return, but who legally has the right to do so. And there are some very clear guidelines for determining who can claim that child. But it can be a little tricky to navigate that in some circumstances. And when will I begin receiving payments? So as long as the IRS has your information on file, you can start receiving those payments in July of this year. If you delay filing, you may get delayed payments, or you may need to claim the full amount of the credit on your 2021 tax return. So I want to be clear here as well. If you do miss the filing deadline, that doesn't mean that you miss out on this credit. It would still be available to you. It just may not be available as soon as it would if you're able to file by the deadline. And now we reach the most important question in my mind, which is how do I file a tax return in order to claim the child tax credit? And I think an additional piece to this question is how can I file for free? Because we want to make sure that you don't have to spend money in order to get money. And so that's why I'm so excited to be able to talk to you about getyourrefund.org, which is a service offered through Code for America. We connect filers to free, quality, IRS-sponsored tax preparation services. Before we built getyourrefund.org, we did some research with 100 filers in Colorado and California to learn what their needs were when it came to tax filing. So this was created with the user's needs in mind. And what we learned was that folks need tax services that are free and trustworthy. This seems like a no-brainer, but we keep this core to our mission. It needs to be free and people need to be able to trust this service. It also needs to be clarifying. Taxes are confusing, and for a lot of people, they're intimidating and frustrating. There are a lot of negative feelings that come up when we think about filing taxes. And what can help is to have someone that you can ask questions of, who can point you in the right direction and give you the confidence needed to file your return. It also needs to be thorough, especially for folks who haven't filed for several years. If you have back taxes that are owed or prior years that you need to file, that needs to be taken into account. And it also needs to be accessible, available whenever people are ready and wherever they are. So we found in looking at available free services that the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance, or VITA program, which is sponsored and monitored by the IRS, best meets these needs that clients shared with us. VITA does provide trustworthy, clarifying, and thorough service. It has an accuracy rate of 93%, which is actually higher than paid preparers across the country. But there were limited ways in which people could access VITA services. Before the pandemic, it had to be done in person in most places. So we partnered with VITA programs across the country, including in Illinois, to connect clients to VITA services both in person and remotely, so that it could be done from the safety and comfort of your own home. Right now, Get Your Refund has several services designed to meet diverse client needs. We have a VITA location finder for those who would rather go to a site in person. We have digital intake, which I will take a little bit of time to walk you through today. And then we have DIY with help. So if you feel comfortable doing your own taxes, as long as you have someone to answer questions if you get stuck, we have that available as well. So we'll take a look at digital intake. The process is fairly simple. You answer a few questions about your household and your finances. You upload any tax documents you may have. You have a phone review with the tax team that'll be working on your return. And then they prepare your return. And when it's finished, you get to review it. And if you give permission, we will e-file for you. And at Code for America, what really drives us is hearing from folks that use the service, not just because it makes us feel good to be able to help, but because it makes us better. We learn what people are experiencing, what they're worried about, and in some cases, we're actually able to make real-time adjustments so that the service is even better for folks. And you see a quote from a client here who mentioned that it feels like he had a weight lifted from his shoulders and that he had experts, real people to help him. And this is someone who filed about 5 years worth of taxes just this year. And we have a special link for you to use. If you're interested in using Get Your Refund, you can go to getyourrefund.org/Chicago. Keep in mind that the filing deadline is May 17th. Since the 15th lands on a weekend, the federal government is actually giving you a couple extra days. So May 17th is the current deadline, and Get Your Refund is available to folks through October 15th. But we really encourage everyone to file as quickly as possible. Here's a list of what you would need in order to use Get Your Refund, because this is an IRS sponsored and monitored program. So we need identification documents as well as tax documents. As I mentioned, you would answer a few questions. This is available in Spanish, and it is available to use on any device. So that's a smartphone, a computer, or a tablet. You answer some questions about your household and your finances. You securely upload your documents. You verify your identity by sending us your picture ID and a selfie of you holding that picture ID. And then you submit your application to us. You receive a call from the VITA site within a few business days, and they begin working on your return. And I want to mention that because we are so close to the filing deadline, volume is very high right now, but we can still serve you. So as you come in, you may get a warning message saying that volume is high. Continue to click through to file with help, and we will assist you. Once you submit, you'll receive high quality tax preparation. And at the very end, you just need to review, sign for your return, and we'll be able to transmit that for you. And you'll get whatever refund that you are due, and hopefully that full amount of the child tax credit. So please feel free to reach out if you have questions. I have included my direct email address here, as well as our support email address, because we do have email and chat support available for folks who are working through the online intake. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen and hand it back.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. That's a lot of information, a lot of good information. So we're going to take a minute and soak it in, people. And we do have a couple of questions. As you know, a lot of the folks attending today are SVP, and they already had tons of questions. Some of them that you already answered through the presentation, and some that were still out there, I think, that people wanted to know. So I'm going to read a couple of them, and then we'll get started with you and answering some of those questions. So the first question that we have is from a parent, Lorena from Columbia Explorers. And her question's in Spanish. I'm going to read it in Spanish and then interpret it into English. So, los adultos con necesidades especiales cuentan como dependientes. Si pueden recibir reembolso por ellos también. So her question is, do adults with special needs count as dependents? And can we get the reimbursement for them as well?
That's a great question. Typically, adults with disabilities, what the IRS terms totally and permanently disabled, can be claimed as a dependent. However, they do not qualify as a qualifying child for the child tax credit. So you could claim an adult with disabilities as a dependent, but you would not receive the child tax credit for them within your refund.
Got it. No, thank you for that. That's clarifying for all the folks that might be in that situation. That's awesome. Thank you. The next question that we have is also from a parent, Sonia, for Morton West High School, coming out of the district to join us today. And her question is also in Spanish, so let me read it and then interpret it. She says, este programa es para puras personas nacidas aquí o ciudadanos o pueden ser personas indocumentadas. So her question is this program for people born in the US or naturalized citizens, or can undocumented individuals also apply?
That's a great question. So the child tax credit is available to anyone who has an Itin. However, the children that are claimed do need to have a social security number. However, they can be citizens, nationals, or resident aliens. So there is some flexibility there, but they do need to have a social security number.
Okay, perfect. And I think that the couple of the next questions, there's about 2 or 3, kind of on that same sentiment, and you answered it a little bit, but maybe you can tell us again in case we missed it. So you talked right now about the children needing to have a social security number. But the parents themselves, if they have one of those ITIN numbers, they can file, correct?
That's correct. So just for anyone on the call who isn't familiar with the phrase Itin, it stands for Individual Taxpayer Identification Number. It's issued for anyone who does not have or cannot be issued a social security number. It's just a way to have a tax record and be able to submit a tax return. So if someone does have an Itin, they, as the tax filer, could qualify for the credit. So that requirement for social security number is for the children being claimed.
Got it. So parents, if you are filing and have that ITIN number, you can do it, but your kiddos do need to have that social security number. Perfect. Thank you for clarifying that. The next question that we have is from Media from Greeley Elementary. And her question is, ¿pueden reclamar a sus hijos de 17 años si trabajan y ganan 11,000 al año, pero siguen estudiando? So her question is, can I claim my 17-year-old son who works and earns $11,000 a year, but is still studying, still a student?
That's a great question. And from the information that I have, it sounds like your son would still be considered your dependent. And as long as he remains within that age range, so it is 17 or younger, he could potentially qualify as a qualifying child for this credit. So yes, as long as you provide more than half the support, and he either lives with you more than half the year or lives on campus for school, you would be able to claim that credit.
Thank you for clarifying that they can live with you guys as your parents and go to school, right? Or on campus, which I didn't know. So thank you so much for clarifying that. The next one is from a parent, Marisol. She doesn't say which school she's coming from. Are children over the age of 6 years of age entitled to 35,000 as a refund?
So children over the age of 6 would be qualified for $3,000 of credit
Okay.
instead of the $3,600. So if your child is age 6 or younger, you would receive $3,600 per child. If they are older, ages 7 to 17, it would be $3,000. So there is that $600 difference.
So if their kid is 6 right now, they can claim that 36, correct? Or
I
was it-
believe
Okay.
so. Well, this is where it gets a little tricky, and there's still some guidance that's required from the IRS around this.
Sure.
This is a tax credit that is technically attached to the 2021 filing tax year, which is the year that we're currently in, which is typically filed in 2022. However, we're getting it in advance based on information on a 2020 return. So the easiest way to determine this is to file a return and let the IRS do the math and figure out which credit your child might qualify for.
Sure, I'm good for that because numbers and the years is super confusing. So parents definitely file to figure out what you are able to claim. So thank you for that. The next question is from a parent, Grisela, also from Greeley Elementary. And her question is, ¿cómo saber si calificamos para el crédito y si calificamos tenemos que regresar el dinero que nos dan como crédito? Very good question. It's how do we know if we qualify? And if we do qualify, is this money that we have to pay back?
Great question. Very important question to address. So to know if you qualify, the easiest thing to do is file a tax return. Otherwise, you would want to look at the eligibility requirements for you as a filer and for your child. And there is unfortunately no super easy way to do that. I would recommend that you take a look at irs.gov. They should have a frequently asked questions section that they will add fairly soon, which should outline information on whether or not you qualify. But you could also apply the information that I reviewed in this presentation. But the easiest way is to file and then just start receiving those payments if you do qualify. The second half of the question about whether or not this is money that you have to pay back is probably one of the most important things to cover today. Absolutely not. This is money that is available to you as a refundable credit. So it's money that you are eligible for if you have a qualifying child. There's no other stipulation or requirement to pay it back.
Fantastic. No, thank you for that clarification. I think a lot of our parents were thinking we're going to get this money, we're going to have to pay it back, and that's a fear, a legit fear, right? That our families and our communities have. So thank you for
Absolutely.
clarifying that if you guys are eligible for it, you get it. It's yours to keep and you don't have to return it or give them back at any time. So thank you for that. The next question that we have is from Merlin, and she is coming to us from Foreman High School. And her question is, mi esposo cada año hace sus taxes y le llega el dinero directo a su cuenta de banco. ¿Así va a ser el dinero depositado y en qué fecha? So her question is, my husband does our taxes every year and gets her refunds automatically deposited to the checking account. Will this credit be deposited to our checking account, and when will they start getting payments?
That's a great question. So the IRS is working from the information that's provided on the 2020 tax return. So if you file your 2020 tax return and include specific bank account information, they will use that information to start sending you payments. If you have already filed and you want to change that, right now there's no way to make a change through a portal or an amended return. So you may have to wait for more guidance from the IRS on that. But otherwise, those payments would come to you automatically. All you had to do was file a 2020 return, and the IRS now has the information needed to send you those advance payments.
Thank you. And you said around July, right, is when they should start kind of checking out?
Correct. Yeah, the IRS has indicated that they'll start making payments in July. So those advance payments would be made July through December of 2021, and they would be up to half of the total credit. So you can choose to opt out and receive the full amount at tax time, or you could receive half upfront and half later on.
Thank you for that. So if you guys already filed in, no worry. And if your bank account is there, just start checking in July, keeping an eye on your account and seeing that that's going through. So thank you for that. And I think this is just what you were talking about. This parent, Sabrina, her question is, if we file taxes before the new tax credit, so if she already filed them, do we need to amend our taxes?
If you filed and your taxes are still accurate, so your dependents listed on that return is a correct list, there's nothing else that you need to do. The IRS has all of the information that they need to apply credit and start sending you payments. If you needed to make any changes, you would have to wait until the IRS Child Tax Credit Portal is available on the IRS website and make changes there.
Okay, awesome. So if you guys already filed them and they were correct and they're good to go, you're done. You just need to wait to get your payments in July. Thank you for that. The next question that we have is from a parent, Jacqueline from Calmeca. And her question, you talked a little bit about this. How can we opt out of receiving the credit in monthly payments?
Great question. Right now, the only way that you'll be able to do that is through the IRS Child Tax Credit Portal, which is not yet available, but is currently being built. And I'm sure that there will be some news releases and announcements when that portal is finally available for folks. You would go in, provide your information, and essentially check a box saying that you would like to opt out of the monthly payments so that you would get the full amount of the credit at tax time next year.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And those were the questions that we received from our RSVP. And I see a lot of folks started already putting some more questions as we were chatting that they have. So one of them we have is, what paperwork do I need if I get paid in cash to file the taxes?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you get paid in cash, you are most likely considered a contractor or self-employed. You would need to provide a log of those cash payments. So it can be monthly, whatever you're able to put together. It's a good idea to create a log each time you get paid in cash. And in addition to your income being logged, we would recommend that you also any expenses that you may have. So supplies that you are paying for out of your own pocket, mileage if you are driving between work sites, all of that. So you can provide a log that you have either kept throughout the year or have created for the purposes of filing taxes.
Awesome. Thank you. So it's a good idea for folks, like Ray say, if you are getting paid cash, keep a record, right, of what you guys are getting when you guys are getting paid. So when these opportunities come, we're ready to go and able to get that cash in our pocket. And this one, I think you already answered a little bit, but I don't know if you know, like the estimate is the credit going to be paid in one lump sum or monthly installments?
So you get to choose. You are automatically opted in to the monthly installments. So unless you tell the IRS that you would rather have it in a single sum at tax, they're going to start automatically sending you payments as July. But you can determine which of those is better for you and your household. If you'd rather have that each month, you can do that. Or if you'd rather have a total amount at tax time, that is available to you as well.
Thank you for that. And guys, I know we talked a lot about websites that you can visit. And as always, tomorrow you're going to get an email. You're going to get a copy of the presentation so you can take a minute and read it and process it, right? And we will include all the links that we talked about today so you can visit those websites. And like Grace said, there's emails and phone numbers that you can call and ask questions. So we'll send that off to all of you guys via email tomorrow. So don't fear, there's a lot of information. We'll try to help you as much as we can. We have another question from Medium, and her question is, I'm going to read in Spanish and then interpret it. Si ya se hicieron los impuestos, ¿podríamos revisar que recibiríamos esta ayuda? ¿Y en qué parte se ve que sí vamos a recibir este apoyo? So if she already filed her taxes, where can she see that she will be receiving this support in her filing? Like, is there a way that she can confirm that she will be receiving?
That's a fantastic question, and one that I really wish that I had an answer to. But right now, we don't know if it will be possible to see whether or not that is being processed for you. Hopefully, when the child tax credit portal is available at the IRS, it may have some additional functionality to allow you to check the status of your credit. But right now, nothing is currently available.
Awesome. No, thank you for that. And I think you already answered this, but let's re-answer, because I think a lot of parents still have this question of, if there's a mixed immigration status in the family, right? Can they still receive this credit? I think a lot of our families are in that situation. So let's reinforcing, what can they do?
Absolutely. It's a really important one, and it's different for different credits and different tax benefits. So it's one that I'm happy to cover as many times as needed. For the child tax credit, mixed status families, if one parent has an Itin and the other parent has a social security number, you would qualify for this particular credit as long as you have qualifying children. So that should not be a barrier. If you as the filer have an Itin, that does not disqualify you from this credit.
Thank you. And just to reemphasize, right, the children are the ones that do need a social security number for this.
That's correct. Yes. Any children being claimed for the child tax credit do need to have a social security number. That was just recently put into place in 2018. So again, that's very confusing for folks who did receive that credit in the past, but now they do need a social security number.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. And parents, I know there's a lot of questions because before you were able to do it, now it changed. So it could definitely be confusing. So ask as many times as you need. We'll say it in different ways so that hopefully we can help you out. The next question that we have is, what is going to happen to the children's tax refund for 2021? Will it be at zero because they are getting this in advance?
That is a great question. So yes, this is what we're talking about now is the child tax credit that would be applied to your 2021 taxes. So when you file 2021 tax return, the amount of the credit that you'd be eligible for is the credit that we're talking about now. So you can receive up to half of that credit in advance, but you wouldn't receive the full amount of the credit according to the latest IRS fact sheet. So you could receive up to half of it in advance in installment payments, and then receive the other half when you file your tax return. Or, as I mentioned, you can opt out of receiving those advance payments altogether and receive the full lump sum at tax time. So in neither of those scenarios would you ever file your taxes in 2021 and find that you get zero in child tax credit. There will always be at least half of that available to you at tax time.
Awesome. No, thank you for clarifying that. I think parents, with money, we freak out. What we're going to get? What are we missing? So thank you for clarifying that. The other question that we have is, it's in Spanish, so let me read it and then I'll interpret it. Los 3,600 son separados de lo que regresan de los taxes. So is the 3,600 separate for their specific tax returns, for whatever they get from their tax returns?
That's a great question. So that dollar amount isn't for each tax return. Instead, it's for each child claimed on the tax return. So if you have children age 6 or younger, you can get $3,600 per child. Or if you have children age 7 to 17, you can get $3,000 per child. So there is quite a lot of money that's available if you have multiple children in your household.
Okay, so hopefully that's for Anonymous, I'm going to put your name. Hopefully that answers that question, that it would be for each child. So it's separate from like what you would get for your just regular taxes that you get back for however much you made that year. So awesome. So let me see if we have any more questions. We have right here, guys. So ask questions, the experts here. I'm going to wait a couple more minutes, see if any other folks are putting questions in the Q&A. But those websites that you said one important thing is in Spanish, right? Is there any other language that this is available in? I know we have here in Chicago, we have a giant Polish community and Urdu and Arabic. So is there any support for those folks?
That's a great question. Right now, the website is only available in English and Spanish. We are working as fast as we can to identify additional languages that we'd be able to make available. But we do have additional language support from our VITA partners, the folks who are actually preparing the taxes. So they can assist folks in multiple languages, including Russian, Mandarin, many others. And a few of our VITA programs actually have access to an interpreter and translation service. So they can handle pretty much any language needed to assist folks in whichever language in which they're comfortable. But right now, the website is only available in English and Spanish.
Sure. No, thank you for that. So folks, if you're part of those communities, right, that are not Spanish speakers or English speakers, right, like share that information so that we can help as many people as we can. We want to make sure we get that money in your pockets. We do have another question here from Norma. And it's in Spanish. ¿Qué pasa con los estudiantes de universidad? ¿Son elegibles para algún crédito? It's a good question. So what happens with university students? Are they eligible for any of the credits?
That's a great question. There are a number of credits for which university students would be eligible. However, for the child tax credit, they would have to be 17 or younger. And I know that there are some young college students out there, so that may apply to them. But if they're over the age of 17, they would not be a qualifying child for the child tax credit. However, you may be able to claim education credits for children who are currently in college or post-secondary education. And there are a few other things that you may be able to look at. There's still a benefit in claiming that child as a dependent, even if they don't qualify for the child tax credit.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. So if you guys have some of your kiddos in college, file your taxes and let's see if we can get something for our students, right? Still being in school and being awesome and staying in college. So let's see what we can do. So file your taxes, guys. So I think those are all the questions that we have. A lot of really good information you gave us today, Senator, too. From everything that you gave us is a lot of good information. What are the 3 main points that you want people to take away today? If they forget everything we said, what are the 3 main things that you want them to remember and take home with them today?
Yeah, what a great question. The first thing, if you completely forget everything else that I've said today, is file a tax return. There are so many benefits that far outweigh the frustrations and confusion that may come along with filing a return. Even if you feel that there may be no benefit to you, even if you haven't filed in the past, now is the time to start filing so that you can take advantage of this credit and any others that become available in the future. The next would be that free quality tax preparation services are available to you. GetYourRefund.org is only one of those, but it does connect you to the VITA program, which has a 50-year history with the IRS. This is well-known, nationally available, free quality tax preparation services. And the third thing would be to file as soon as possible. So the filing deadline is May 17th. GetYourRefund.org is available through October 15th. But we want to make sure that you get this cash in your pocket as soon as possible because, we know that there are ways that it can be used. So we want to make sure that folks get access to that when they need it, which is most likely now for most folks in the country.
Absolutely. No, I definitely agree with you. And I think, your second point that there's a place where they can go to get support, that it's free, right? A lot of us have to pay money for someone smarter than us to do our taxes, right? So finding those folks who are doing it and are doing it for free and are going to help you in your language, that's amazing. So parents, community members that are joining us, take advantage of this. We will definitely send all those links and the deck out to you guys. and amplify it. Send it to other community members, send it to your aunts, cousins, send it out to everybody. You want to make sure that if you're eligible, your family's eligible, you have kids, we're getting this money because we know there's a lot of families out there that are in need of this support. So we really want to make sure that we're getting this information out and it's available for you guys. So please take advantage of this. Make sure that you guys are filing, you guys are reaching out. Everybody has my email, so make sure you reach out if you have questions or concerns. And by tomorrow, we'll send out the deck and all the links that we shared today. And then the video will be up next week. Give us until Monday. Bear with us as we get it up in our YouTube channel. And then amplify the link. Send it out to everybody that you know so that they can get this information. You don't have to be a CPS student or a family. Just anybody that has children, right, around the country is eligible for this. So you don't have to be a Chicago Public School student, although we love you if you are. So make sure that you guys are sharing this information. And with that, I think we have, I don't know if there's any other closing remarks that anybody else wants to do before we close it out. All right, so I'm gonna thank you, Ray, for joining us. Dr. Jackson, I don't know if you wanted to give some closing remarks.
I'm sorry, I was
That's
on the
okay.
So thank you. First, I want to thank Ray for sharing that wonderful and in-depth information. I was chatting to Chuck while you were speaking, like I'm writing all of this down because I have so many family members and people that I just have to share this information with because it really is stuff that people don't know. So thank you. I want to thank Code for America for sharing your expertise and helping to reach families. And of course, our amazing FACE team and Berenice, keep doing what you're doing. Ask the Expert is the bomb. And we recorded this. We're going to get it up on social media and help amplify that so that parents can access it when it's convenient for them. But again, I want to thank all of our parents who checked in, and please tell your friends and family members about the Ask the Expert series. It really is our attempt to do more outreach and share useful information to our families and community members. So thanks everybody for your contributions today.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. Appreciate it. Ray, thank you so much. Everybody that joined us tonight, thank you so much for giving us your time. I know you're super busy with the kiddos and trying to fix dinner and helping them with their homework. So we really appreciate everything that you're doing and for joining us today. So everybody have a great night and we'll see you next week for our next session. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.